Hello, I'm Joshua Gordon, the founder of the Sports Conflict Institute. We are live with SCI TV. I am joined today by Ashton Henderson and Travis Key. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us.
This is a real treat. Both of you have spent a lot of time thinking about and writing about and talking about a topic I care a lot about, which is athlete transitions. And what I'm hoping we can begin with is for you to share a little bit about what drove you to writing that book, including some of your own personal background and story. I think folks will recognize some of the names of where you've played, where you've been, and then let's go from there and try and see if we can help some of our audience understand how they can position themselves better for success in athletics as well. So why don't we start with you, Ashton, a little bit about your background, how you got into this space, and we'll go from there.
Absolutely. My name is Ashton Henderson. I'm born and reared from the great Tallahassee, Florida. I was very fortunate to have the opportunity to have a cornucopia of offers coming out of high school. Had about 25 scholarship offers to attend Division I institutions. However, I whittled it down to had a criteria. Obviously, academics was huge on my priority list, academics, social, and somewhere that I was looking for a family atmosphere. And what I did was whittled that down to Michigan State, Ole Miss, and UCLA. And I ended up a guy from Tallahassee, Florida, choosing the old Midwest and going to Michigan State to spend 6 years of my life there. And if I could do it all over again, I would choose Michigan State every time, just because of the experience I had, the development and growth that I was able to be afforded, the opportunities I had there. But what really pushed me to really, Travis and I to look forward to have the initiative to write Beyond the Gridiron was I was in grad school. Obviously, I had a pretty successful career at Michigan State. I had a knee injury going into my junior season, could never really recoup from that. And it was just something where I knew I had aspirations of going to the NFL. However, I always knew I had to have a plan B and make sure that I was sustainable. I knew that my education was going to sustain me and my family for the rest of my life. So with that, I was able to, with the relationships I built throughout my time at Michigan State, I was able to come on and be a graduate assistant in student athlete support services. From there, I had an advertising undergraduate degree, School of Communications, and went on to pursue a master's in public relations, and had an opportunity to work 2 years in the student athlete development program there. From that experience, really turned my mind and to some things where I know that high school guys, particularly guys from first-generation homes, are really struggling making that transition. So I reached out to one of my best friends who was a teammate of mine, Caleb Thornhill, who was actually the director of player engagement for the Miami Dolphins. And I asked him, what are you guys doing? What kind of programs do you have in place to help your rookies transition? And he shared with me a template called Keeping It Real, and just a template where guys will get together, talk about social issues, how do they, make that successful transition, budgeting money, finances, utilizing resources around you. So from that, I was able to implement the same kind of criteria and program at Michigan State, and I saw a need for freshmen redshirting who really didn't feel they were getting the most attention they needed. And to this day, going in its 6th year, the program still stands, and it's evolved into something where it's more than just a transitional program. It really helps you and equips you for life. So that's my passion and my story.
Fantastic, and thank you for joining to have this conversation today. And Travis, you have a similarly impressive story as well. I'd love to hear a little bit about your background.
Yeah, I don't know if my story is as impressive as Ashton's, but
you're right.
No, I graduated high school. I was born and raised in South Side of Chicago. I'm in Harvey, Illinois. My mom moved my brother and I up to Three Rivers, Michigan, right before high school. So complete opposite ends of the social spectrum, but definitely a great move. From there, I was a 3-sport athlete. Didn't have any Division I scholarship offers. I wasn't even really being recruited at all by any Division I schools coming out of high school. But decided that I wanted to be an engineer, and I decided that Michigan State University was the place for me. And I also decided that I was going to put myself in a position to walk onto the team, make the team, and be able to be a part of that deal from that angle. So I chose Michigan State, went to Michigan State as a mechanical engineering major. I had some academic scholarships and things like that to help, support from the financial side, but I wasn't on an athletic scholarship. Ended up, getting an opportunity to try out for the team. Made the team. Make a long story short, after my first season playing, spring of 2005, I was awarded a scholarship. I was on scholarship from there. I ended up becoming a starter my junior year. I started my junior senior year. Academic All Big Ten. All 4 years that I played. Ended up putting myself in a position where my teammates and my coaches from Michigan State appreciated and respected what I had done, and they voted me as one of the senior captains for my team my senior year, which was definitely one of the biggest honors of my life. After that, went undrafted, went and had a short career in the NFL, played in the CFL as well for a short stint. During all that time playing football, I earned my undergraduate degree as a packaging engineer from Michigan State University, the #1 school in the world for packaging, I must say. So got my undergrad degree. I began my master's degree my senior year, so my last year of eligibility playing there in the fall of '07. So went on, had that brief stint playing football professionally. In 2010, the writing was on the wall that it was time for me to hang up the cleats. So I did so and jumped into corporate America. At that same time, Caleb Thornhill, who's clearly, we clearly have a strong circle here. He's one of my best friends as well. Caleb and I, we were setting out to start a nonprofit organization, and through that nonprofit organization, in which we pulled Ashton on board, he was a huge part of that as well. We all began to really see and experience firsthand high school student athletes, male student athletes from under-resourced, underserved, underprivileged backgrounds, like Ashton mentioned, first generation guys for the most part. We really began to see firsthand the lack of understanding that they had of what it was to be a collegiate student athlete and what it was going to take to get from where they were as high school student athletes to being able to get that opportunity to become a collegiate student athlete. And so we saw a huge disconnect, and we all began to have conversation around what we could do to help position these guys better for success, not just in high school, not just in college if they were able to get that opportunity, but for lifelong term. And so, through those conversations, of course, we procrastinated. We talked about it for a while, and eventually, it eventually got to the point where Ashton would just keep pounding down the door, telling us to get on the horse and start writing, just getting stuff down on paper. A couple years later, man, we had a book, and now we're published, man. So that's a little bit of the story. Clearly, Ashton and I are both passionate about making a positive impact on our youth and setting them up for success long term, and that's what we're trying to do through this book.
So fantastic backgrounds from both of you, and clearly success stories. I mean, that is a hard set of transitions to keep going through and coming out with all those degrees, all that experience, and all that passion still intact. And what I'd be really interested to hear about is a little bit of that foundation of what the book is about. So tell us a little bit about what the core of the book is. I think it's really interesting and fundamental to what drove you each personally.
Yeah, I'll start off, and then Ashton, you can jump in. Basically, the purpose of the book is to, we talked about the demographic and the folks that we're targeting, but it's really a tool that can be utilized across the athletic spectrum. So we'll make that clear right off the bat. But the main purpose is to help to position student athletes in general to be successful once they get to college. A lot of people get to college with the opportunity to play a sport, and they end up falling on their face. They end up failing. They end up dropping out. They end up transferring. They end up doing something socially that strips them from that opportunity. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that they're not prepared for the situation before they get in the situation. And so it's so much of a shock to their system. They don't know how to handle the pressure. They don't know how to handle the adversity. They don't know how to manage the time. They don't know what to expect from the social experiences. And so the book sets out to prepare them, to give them some insight from two guys who've lived through it, give them some insight on what it's really like, so that they can begin to prepare themselves mentally, physically, emotionally before they get there, so that they can be successful once they get in that situation.
And to kind of piggyback off that, our mantra is to encourage all student athletes to look beyond the scope of athletics for success. And I think as we set out to do this, one of the main things that we were really strategically focusing on was to really ensure that athletes of all generations, not just football, basketball, whatever you might be or whatever you're into, is just really to encourage everyone to look, just maximize every opportunity that you have, every resource, every person. It's always somebody who's going to build into your life. And for us, we have two young men who come from two completely different backgrounds. In this day and age, you would never say that we'd be best friends, but from that experience and learning from each other and learning to adapt and assimilate to his culture and different styles and different things that we've learned in our experiences, that's what we set out to do in this book, and make it is really, in terms, it's very easy to read. The book in itself really just talks about our success and our failures. And I think the most important thing is our failures. You know, that's how you grow. Pressure creates growth in my mind. And with that, you know, it shows the stories where Ashton couldn't manage time. You know, I have struggled. I was a AB student coming out of high school, 3.67 GPA. When I got to college, I was spinning like a top on a merry-go-round because everything that was coming at me. But what we want to do and what we set out to do is we want young men and young women to come in and have an understanding of what you're getting into. Because like myself, I was very fortunate to have coaches who were very candid and let me know exactly up front what the recruiting process and what it entailed. But now in this day and age, you get a story. You get a good story of how things are supposed to be, but you leave out the important things, which academics is really 80% of what you do on a day-to-day, and you have to be eligible. You have to make sure you're meeting certain standards, and I don't think that's being conveyed to students in the light that it should be, and that's what we want to make sure they're educated, and parents as well.
At what point should folks be thinking about transition? So they're already going through a recruiting process, let's say in high school, or maybe they're trying to walk on or some other way. What's the point when they should really start thinking about what that transition is going to entail and some of the ways to set themselves up for success?
Well, truthfully, that transition or that mindset around that transition should begin to take place, immediately once you begin high school. It should be a goal of every high school student, not just student athlete, but high school student to get to college. And a lot of the lessons that are taught or talked about through our piece can be transferred over from athletics just to general population. So anyone that's trying to go to college that wants to, be successful during that transition can definitely learn something from this book. And that you really have to start as early as possible, man. And I would say at the latest, your freshman year in high school, you should start thinking about, setting yourself up for success once you get the opportunity to go to college.
Yeah. Why do you think a lot of times folks have such a skewed view of what that experience is going to be like? We hear so many folks. I'll give you an example. We were working with a Pac-12 school, and when we interviewed the football team, roughly out of the 110 folks on the roster, roughly 90 thought that they were going to be drafted. And you know why that's funny, because how many on any given team are going to be drafted? So we realized, in fact, it was 3. The next year we asked the same question. We told them, look, only 3 of you last year were drafted. How many of you think you are going to be drafted? And it only dropped down to 82. Okay? So, a lot of folks aren't necessarily believing that there's going to be an end, but every single athlete will have an end to their playing career, right?
No doubt.
And so whether the transition happens tomorrow or 2 years from now or 5 years from now, and there's certain natural ones when you're going from high school to college and then college to pro, if that's where you're going. There's always transition. Another coach comes in, anything like that. So what are some of those key fundamental things for folks who know they're going to have to go through transition, whether they want to believe it or not? What are some of those fundamental things that they need to consider as part of that transition process?
I think you honestly have to be, I'm very fortunate in my current role. I serve as an associate director of academic services at Clemson University. And we have some pretty elite student athletes, academically and athletically. And at some point, like you said, Josh, the playing days are going to end. You know, you're going to have to hang up the cleats someday. And I think it's, like I said, part of the going back to that from the book, utilizing every resource. There's so many resources on every collegiate campus that you can really immerse yourself in and really take advantage of. And I think in this day and age, that's what we're trying to push as professionals, as academic advisors, to really get our students to really have those step out of the box and do some things that make you uncomfortable. Because in life, that's what's going to really transcend and help you, because you can't just depend on making it to the NFL. We know the numbers, we know the statistics. They continue to go down every year. I think it's 0.1% that makes it. You know, there's only so many slots, and even if you make it to the NFL, what are you going to do after that? So really understanding how to manage money, how to coming out and utilizing the career center and have a decent and understand and represent yourself with a resume. The experience that you have as an athlete, just the transferable skills that you learn, all employers are looking for that, and that's what we're really trying to convey to them. You're hardworking, you know how to take criticism, coaching, you know, all those different intangibles that set you apart from your counterparts is something that we're really trying to really breathe life into them and understand that there's more to life than just the X's and O's. And for me, I think it was really harder for me because I'm going to be honest, you know, I really wanted to do that, but with my faith and, you know, that, but I'm just so grateful to have the opportunity to play and reach back and to give back, because some will make it and some won't. But like you said, at the end of the day, you have to really tap into those resources here on your campus, because at the end of the day, those are going to be your advocates, your professors, people you've touched in the lives and relationships you built are going to really help you move forward in your life.
Fantastic. Any other final thoughts that you want to share as we wrap? This has been a great conversation, giving people some insight into what athlete transition entails. I think as we're going back to school here, it should be on the minds of a lot of folks who are nervously starting to pack up and get ready for their first experience. But there's always change in sports, and there's always change in life, and these transitions are really what, you know, determines failure from success many times. So the things you're talking about are really at the critical intersection between whether or not someone's going to have a good foundation to go off of or not. Any final thoughts from each of you?
Yeah. I would say, you know, like you said, everyone's window is going to close sooner or later. And something that Ashton hit on that I just want to elaborate a little bit on is those relationships that you gain along the way. You have to make sure, you know, you keep those very close and you take care of them. You can't burn bridges. You have to make sure, you know, that you can maintain a high sense of respect from the people that you encounter on a regular basis, not just through sports, but in the classroom with your teachers, with folks out in the community, folks around the university, because eventually, you know, your time playing that sport, wearing that jersey is gonna end. And the only way we as people, as a society, get the opportunity to do things to better ourselves is through relationships and someone else really giving us that chance. And you never know who that someone else is going to be. You never know who that someone is that you're going to have to call on to help give you a boost or, you know, give you some assistance. And so, you know, as you encounter people throughout your road, throughout your path, make sure you cherish those relationships and make the most of them, and make it a point to let people know who you are, you know, underneath the jersey, without the jersey. Make sure they know who, you know, Travis Key or Ashton Henderson, the person, is, so that when you do come back, when those playing days are over, they can appreciate you for who you are.
Great. And Ashton, final thoughts from you as well?
Yes, I was just going to say each and every one of everybody has been charged with something to make an impact on this world. And whether it be playing football, whether it be an engineer, we all have a gift. And it's something that makes sure you utilize each and every way that you can. And I would just just piggyback off what Travis said. Relationships are so essential for your life, and somebody's going to have to advocate for you someday. And those first impressions and the things you do and who you represent, where you come from, really all come from, and the relationships you cultivate come from how you are perceived. So from there, it's just mainly utilizing your platform and understanding that there's not a sense of entitlement just because you're an athlete. You really need to focus on getting better every day in terms of play. We did a blog on USA Football that Travis wrote. It was spectacular, called "Play to the Whistle." And what that essentially means is everything you do in life, go is like it's your last. You don't know the number of days that you have that are limited. It's just a blessing to be on this earth, and why not make an impact, and why not go after everything you want to in the street of your dreams, because you have the ability, you have the foresight. It's just believing in yourself. And just one thing I want to leave somebody with is there are going to be individuals who talk down and not necessarily don't want you to, or say you can't do something. I'm here to say that a lot of people say that about Travis and I. We've overcome a lot of odds, and we're here to empower and make sure that students know from all generations, not just athletes, that whatever you put your mind to, you have a set out to do, you can do it, no matter what anybody says. But just have faith, believe in yourself, and give everything you got. You'll be where you want to be.
Gentlemen, I'm really honored and appreciative of you taking the time to share some of your wisdom and thoughts with our audience. How can they continue to connect with you, whether it's Twitter or gain access to your book or any of these? I'd love to leave them with some takeaways so that they can continue to follow the great work that you're doing and continue to read more about the wisdom and work that you have in mind.
Yep, so you can find the book clearly on Amazon or any of the other distribution channels, but we prefer that you visit our website, www.beyondthegridironllc.com. You can follow all of our activities, the events that we're involved in, the charities that we support, and you can purchase the book, a signed copy of the book from there as well. You can also follow myself on Twitter at Travis Key. You can follow Ashton. Ashton can go ahead and give you his handle because I just have it plugged in. I don't know it by heart.
Come on, man, you should. It's A_Henderson31. You can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram at BTG_PPA. PPA is a special project that we're working on next as a follow-up, something that builds on that relationship piece of one of our coaches who was instrumental in our lives and development and growth, Harlem Barnett. So shout out to Coach Barnett. We love you, Coach.
Well, gentlemen, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. It's really been a pleasure and an honor, and I think folks are going to really enjoy hearing about what you have to say and reading a lot more. So look forward to more from you in the future.
Josh, thanks for having us on.
Josh, one last thing I forgot to tell